when it comes to recruiting position players, what do you look for? Is there a specific checklist? Is there a criteria you go off? What would open your eyes?
Well, and I know kids and parents have heard this 1,001 times, so I'll be 1,002 on this. The academic piece, that is we're watching a kid play, and the first thing I do is find the coach and have the coach tell me, hey, what kind of student is he? Because for us, we have a specific academic criteria, as do many schools, that we have to fulfill first. So if at Rochester, it's a high-end academic institution. It's one of the top, 35 in the country. So we compete with kids that are looking at some of those Ivy League schools and some of those higher-end academic schools. So the academic piece is first and foremost. Then when we start to get into skill specific, I look for athleticism. And I know you can speak on this, and maybe some other kids out there, their coaches can speak on it, but the more positions you can play as a player, the more of an asset you are to that coach. So, the more athletes we can put on a field, I'm going to take my chances with those guys. And I know that a lot of teams go into that recruiting mode when they're looking at players, athletes. We're looking for athletes. Typically in baseball, you find them right up the middle of the field, between your catchers, your pitchers, your middle infielders, and your second basemen.
Hold up.
Yep.
Hold up. You said pitchers? You said pitchers being athletes?
I'm
just
I have a story. I'm going to come back to that because yes, but you have your pitchers, your middle guys, and your center fielder. So that's where we look for. But now we might have a need where we need a big bat in a certain class. So we'll look at a guy that's a thumper that, hey, can we put him at first base? Can we put him at third base? Can he play a corner outfield spot? But when it comes to recruiting, I think a lot of coaches that, I spend a lot of time in the summer, they're looking for athletes. And to get back to your pitching thing. So we had a shortstop that came in. We recruited, loved him, great arm, just couldn't hit. Once he got to the college level, he's out in the bullpen one day after practice, just goofing around, and it is awesome. I mean, it is awesome. He's we threw the radar gun at him. He was 87, 88, touched an 89, but his ball is running all over the place. That next year we converted him to a closer, led the conference in saves, was one of the top 5 in the country in saves. And he's one of the most decorated pitchers to ever play at Rochester. But he was a shortstop in high school.
Wow.
So, but he was a 3-sport guy, played hockey, played basketball, ran track, ran cross country in the fall, as well as baseball in the spring. So, that's where it goes to that athleticism. And he adapted very quick on the mound.
Wow. Interesting. Because, as a position player, we always have that little thing with the pitchers not being athletes, and they try to say that they're more athletes, but I'll give you this one. Let
me put an asterisk on that. There are some pitchers who are not that athletic. So we're just going to keep it at that too.
Let's flip it over to pitchers. What do you look for? Is there a specific checklist criteria you go off of?
Pitchability. And I know that is thrown out there a lot, and can be such a broad and vague term. So pitchability, I think, is defined by the coach, that says it. For us, we're looking to find somebody that throws strikes. Is this, as old as baseball is, the one thing that's a constant is you cannot defend a walk, right? You just can't put all the guys in the infield and defend ball 4. It just doesn't happen. So we want guys that throw strikes. We're looking for guys that can locate pitches, whether that be 1, 2, or 3 pitches. Pitchers, if you're listening out there, you don't need to throw 5-6 pitches. You know, you need to throw 3, 2 that you can throw for strikes at any time. You know, pitching is based on unpredictability, right? You know, if you're a hitter, you know, first thing we loved as hitters, right, was watching a pitcher going, man, 0-0 counts. It's a first pitch fastball every time. I mean, we're licking our lips going, yeah. If you don't have that fastball that can beat somebody, you know, what about throwing that breaking ball, that changeup first pitch? Now you have the hitter thinking, wow, okay, he can throw different pitches. So that unpredictability is key, and I think you get that by, you know, having multiple pitches that you can throw for strikes. I think too much is put into the radar gun. There is a place for it, but you know, in my world, you know, you want to see guys with a nice fastball, but that can throw multiple pitches for strikes. So that's what we look for.
At what age can a kid expect to be looked at and recruited by your program? And do you take players' age in consideration or only the class they are in? For example, let's say a kid that's younger than his age group. Do you guys look for that, or is it just you know, the year that he's in?
So at the Division III level, I would say 90% of the colleges in our level look for, you know, kids going into their senior year. Now, we pay attention with kids going into their junior years, because if you're a talented kid and we can kind of watch you, and maybe you're a one or two tools short of what a Division I guy looks like, you know, we'll make notes and we'll put you in our database. But for the most part, I would say 90% of the Division III schools are starting to recruit kids that are going into their senior years. And we generally start that process, you know, I would say probably February, March, just looking at transcripts, SAT, ACT scores, and then getting that, you know, that junior year high school season, getting a schedule together, and then following you through that summer. Because I would say probably 99% of our recruiting is finished by November 1st. We do a lot through the early decision process. So
awesome. Is there any stats that you consider D3, and do you look at like exit velocities, and how much stock do you take in those exit velocities and those other metrics?
Well, I've kind of turned on this a little bit, because I was brought up in the old school way, right? And that was numbers that you look at. I would always look at extra base hits, you know, when we're looking at a player, how many times that player struck out versus walked. We're talking about a position guy. Pitching wise, I look at walks to strikeouts. How many hits per innings pitched do you give up? But, you know, some of the younger coaches that I've had in our program have turned me on to this analytic stuff. And so now I do look at exit velocity. You know, I do look at the Rapsodo printouts, the hit tracks printouts that pitchers get, because I do think that gives me something, you know, an additional piece to gauge guys on when I look at their stats as well. You know, you could have a 95 exit velo, you know, but if you're striking out, you know, 1 out of every 3 at bats, you know, that really doesn't matter, right? So we're still looking at the statistical put out. The eyeball test for me is huge, as well as my assistant coaches. I mean, we try to get, you know, 3 to 4 different looks on kids that we are very much interested in, at any point between their high school season, as, you know, going into the fall of their senior year. So, but I think, you know, the exit velos, the Rapsodo, you know, printouts, you know, spin rates, those are all things that we definitely pay attention to.
Awesome. How should a player go about getting exposure? And what opportunities are there for kids that don't have the means to attend camps and showcases?
I would say, if you do have the means, you try to find showcases or tournaments that are the best bang for your buck. There are showcases out there as well as tournaments that are highly attended by schools that might be in the realm that you're looking to go to. If you're a high-end academic kid, that is looking at Ivy League schools, I would reach out to those coaches. Video is always a good thing to send. Coaches keep that on file. They put that in your recruiting file. But if you're someone, like me, when I was growing up, I didn't have the means to go to, different showcases and camps. If you can find, a school that you're interested in, just continue to contact those coaches and just let them know your situation, because, most Division III schools travel throughout the country, and there's always opportunities to stop off at tournaments, things like that, where they can watch you play. Having a high school coach give the college coach a call, there's nothing wrong with that. I firmly believe in that. Your summer coach doing the same thing. I think those are all positive things, because in most cases, your summer coach or your high school coach may have had a relationship with that college coach in previous years about another player that they had in the program. So I think all those are good ways to get on the radar, of those college coaches that you're interested in.
So you're saying that they should use their network to basically help them.
I do, and I think that's an important piece to learn, networking, because that's going to pay dividends. If you learn it now in the high school ranks, when you get to college and in your professional life, that's going to bode you well as you start to move through your professional ranks too. Learning how to do that.
That's great information. You don't hear that from anyone else. So that's like all you guys listening right now, that is like amazing information as far as like networking to use because most of these parents are thinking, what can we do by themselves to get noticed? They're not thinking about their network helping them to get where they want to get to. So that's great information.
And Jermaine, to your point, you just hit on it. Coaches want to hear from the kids, right? I'm not recruiting mom and dad. In a sense, I am, because they're probably going to write the check to pay for your college, but I want to know who I'm bringing into my program, and I want a kid who has some personality, who can carry on a conversation with me, tell me what he likes, tell me what he doesn't like. Because again, I'm taking somebody for 4 years, and at the end of 4 years, putting them out into the real world, whether it be in Wall Street, in the courtroom, in the hospital field, whatever it is. And I'm going to make sure that my guys are prepared to do that.
Amazing. By the way, University of Rochester is one of the best schools out there. So I know he already, touched on it, but I'm just reaffirming it. I got to meet all the people there, and it's one of the best schools around in this area. So let's continue. I know that you pretty much talked about it, but I'm going to ask it again. And the question is, should a recruit contact you or wait to be recruited? You basically said it. I just wanted to let you get more in depth into that.
So contact, right? Because you never want to. I as a player, and I'm going to put my player hat on here. I would never want to not turn over every stone to get noticed by a school or a coach that I wanted to go to and attend, right? Don't leave anything to chance. So contact us now. So everybody out there knows, starting in about a month, we're going to get anywhere between 250 to 500 emails a day, because it just starts to roll in. All right. and we get emails and phone calls from kids all over the country, not just Western New York, New York State. We're all over the place. So if a coach doesn't get back to you, just continue to follow up. Most schools will have a recruiting questionnaire online that you can fill out. For us, we have that goes into our database. Be sure to fill out every field. All right. So in our case, we have fields that you type position you play. And I would put your primary as well as your secondary positions in there, because what I do is I start to look at, okay, we need a left-handed pitcher with an SAT over 1350. I can filter through our database and it will spit me out a list of guys that have typed in questionnaires, and now I contact those guys just to see where they are in the process. But yeah, I would, if you're interested in a school, by all means, contact them. Have coaches contact them for you.
So this database, can they attach a video to this email as well, or how does that work? Just a little bit more.
You can attach I believe you can attach a YouTube link to it. I'm not sure if ours has that. I think YouTube you can as of now, but I don't know what other formats they accept. But again, send an email and just say, Coach, I filled out your online questionnaire. Here is my link to my video or my recruiting profile. Please check it out. And then usually we'll just cut and paste and put that in your file in our database as well.
So basically, the way you're explaining is like, you want to be as proactive, like this is your dream job and you're trying to get that job. You're going to be on it. You're going to be sending video. You're going to be just following up as often as you possibly can, right? You're not going to bug, but you're going to be persistent in your effort to get what you want.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at kids that want to do this in college. Someone that just sends one email or fills out something and you never hear from them again, how much do they really want to be part of this, right? I mean, as well as I do, college baseball is a great time. You have a ton of fun. You have unbelievable experiences, but it is hard.
Yeah,
it is hard.
Awesome. So when talking about exposure, what are the best ways? Can you list like email, video, showcase, social media, camps? Is there like, obviously you said showcases or eye test is the first one. So is there, below that would be, is it your camps or is it, just give a list if you can.
So I would say like for Rochester, we're limited in terms of how much, financial assets we have to go recruiting throughout the country. So we have to be pretty smart about how we spend our dollars. For us, we go to the academic showcases. There's probably 3 that we go to on a regular basis. We attend camps through a lot of the Ivy League schools, those camps. But we also, every once in a while we'll host our own camp. And so a lot of schools will do the same. So if you're interested in XY University, and they're holding a prospect camp, call the coach, send an email to the coach, say, hey, what are your needs for this class that you're looking for? And if those needs position-wise fit what position you are, then that might be something you want to look into to attend those camps. Because, if you can get in front of them, number one, you're going to see how those coaches interact with their current players. You're going to see how those coaches interact with the players that are visiting, and you're going to get a chance to play in front of them, which I think is a great opportunity.
Awesome. What about, I got asked right now about recruiting services. So what's your opinions and thoughts about using the NCSA recruiting? I don't know much about that, but do you guys use any recruiting services?
I mean, we do use them. Again, I think it goes to those emails that we get flooded, with a lot of those NCSA, profiles. I look at them, my assistants look at them. If there's anyone that really catches our eye, we'll be sure to reach out, look at video. I think there's some, benefits to it. But again, you're looking at how best to spend the dollars that, each kid and each family is going to set aside to this process. Some might have more than others. I think anytime you can play in front of a coach of certain schools that you're interested in, I think those are dollars well spent.
Great. What about let's go into a little bit more. When it comes to an email, what should they do? Or video, what do you guys look for? Just a little bit things, some little tips that you said YouTube, you can send that link. Like, what do you guys look for in that video? Just a little bit more info.
Okay. So doing this 20 years, I will say this. Most of the kids out there are going to send emails out to multiple schools. Be sure, and I know you guys cut and paste them, just be sure that you have the right coach to the right school, because I have gotten several emails that it's my wrong name and it's the wrong school. I will immediately I'll draw a line right through you right there, because that tells me you're just not putting enough time and effort and proofreading stuff that you're gonna send, something like that out. So I will say that it should, your graduation class, your grade point average, if you have a test score and a position, should be in the first 3 sentences of the email that you send out. Because like I said, we get, come mid-July, I'm getting 500 a day, and I read through them. So if I'm not looking for an outfielder, I'll just, if I get something, hey, this is Jermaine Curtis, I'm an outfielder. All right, well, we don't need one. Thank you, Jermaine. We're not looking for an outfielder in this class. Wish you the best of luck. And then I move on to the next, guy. But it allows me to kind of sift through and find emails of guys of positions that we're looking at, or have grades that we're looking at as well.
So you say you're getting 500. All right. So now
it's ridiculous.
They send you a video or a link to a video. How long should that video be? 1 minute, maybe?
I would say a minute. Position wise, within a minute, I should see arm strength. So a shot from, if you're an infielder taking a ball from deep short, and I'm watching the ball from behind the shortstop, making its way to first base, and even from behind first base, I'm watching the throw, because I break out my stopwatch and I can time it. I can kind of gauge arm strength off of that. But within a minute, I need to see ground balls and swings, because I can tell, I have a pretty good idea of, okay, that swing looks pretty good. Let's look further into this guy. I would say a minute at tops. Pitching wise, we want to see shots from behind the pitcher's mound in the home plate. Show your pitches. If you have 2-3 pitches, put them in there. Show the side view from either third base or first base, because we can look at mechanics, try to pick up a few things that we might be able to correct, that might add to it. But we're looking at arm speed in a pitching video. But I would say no more than a minute.
This is the best info you guys are going to get as far as like coach. He's giving you everything you need right here. If you guys aren't taking notes, I mean, you should be taking notes right now. That's what I'm telling you guys.
And I'm just gonna, I'll tell you guys out there that coaches talk. Some of my best friends are Division I coaches at some unbelievable academic schools and some unbelievable baseball powers. So like, we all talk. If they think they have a guy for me that they can't get in, or they're going to pass on, those guys pass the info to me. If I'm at an event where I see a guy that's off the charts good, and he's a perfect SAT score, and he's all A's, I call my buddies in the Ivy League and say, hey man, you might want to check this guy out. So just keep that in mind too.
Is there a player that you did that for in the Rochester area?
Yeah, I made I made a few calls for some guys. Brian Rinke's one that comes to mind. Chris Sleeper. I've had a few conversations with some guys. So yeah, it's just a matter of people helping people.
Amazing. So now let's flip over to the showcases. What do you look for at showcases? You said athleticism, but can you give a little bit more? Or camps? Is there like certain things that may pop out? What about maybe their personality, guy that's a leader on the field, energy? What do you look at things like that as well?
Yeah, I will say, when it comes to athleticism, I'm looking at those quick twitch guys. Those guys that can turn quick, that hit a ball in the gap and out of the box, man, that they're getting to second base. I look for guys that play the game hard, that have fun playing it. I mean, guys, it's a game. You got to have fun doing it. And Jermaine can attest to this. College baseball is fun, but it's hard. So you have to have fun doing it. And I look for guys that have good personality, guys that I want to, be part of their lives for the next 4 years, as well as the next 40 years. I've been on these Zoom calls with, with guys that I've coached 20 years ago. And we do these virtual happy hours with these guys. And these guys, most of them are turning, they're in their late 30s, turning 40. And I just laugh for 2 hours, but we're good friends now. So I'm looking for guys that have makeup like that I know, hey, 20, 30, 40 years from now, these guys are going to be, making fun of me about something I did, a bad call I made, a bad decision I made, or why I didn't put them in the lineup here. That's what I really enjoy, and those are guys that I look for.
Do you look for players? This is a question I've been getting asked several times, so I'm just going to throw it out there. Do you look for players with a 3.0 to 3.5 GPA versus a player with the 4.0
GPA? When a 4.0 comes across my desk, I look at it. I know I'm not going to lie. I'll be real with you guys. But if someone comes across my desk with a 3.2 and he's a good baseball player, a 3.2 at school A could be the same as a 3.8 GPA at school B. So I look at transcripts. I'm going to look at your course of study, because there's kids out there that are very intelligent, and they might not take a heavy or rigorous course load, versus some kids that take the AP classes. They take the challenging coursework. I look at those too, because those are all weighed pretty differently, when it comes to admissions at Rochester.
So from what I'm hearing, he's big into the details, and I think that's what makes a great baseball player as well, and a person that's successful in life. So I think you guys should take notice of that. The details. Don't cut corners on anything. So my next question is, does academics really matter? Because I get this one. Does academics really matter? Is it important?
Here's what I'll tell you guys, is that what you guys are doing now in high school dictates work ethic, right? So the kids that just want to coast, and if you truly want to play college baseball, those kids that coast when they get, through high school, when they get to college, they're going to have a pretty difficult time. Because Jermaine can attest to this. He went to UCLA, a fantastic academic school. Professors teach. They don't slow down for anybody.
Right.
Would you agree with that, Jermaine?
Agree.
So I know in high school, if you're a good academic student, it probably will be a little easier for you in certain classes, because teachers are going to, slow down for some kids. When you get to college, they don't do that. So in these early years in high school, 9th, 10th, 11th grade, you're kind of establishing your work ethic academically. When you get to college, that's when it's tested. And you're going to quickly learn, and which probably about 1,000 first-year kids do that each October, early October. They come into the dugout and they come to practice and their eyes are wide as can be because they've never experienced anything like this before. And it's okay, because you're learning then how to adapt, and you're going to tap into that work ethic and you will get it done. You'll get the work done. You'll find a way to do that. And there's a direct correlation between your in-classroom work ethic and your baseball work ethic. You're going to do the little things in the weight room. You're going to do the little things in practice to do things right. Those little things pay huge dividends come game time. And that's where that correlation comes into play. And in all my years of coaching, those kids that have been successful, great work ethics in the classroom, have been probably our best players on our team year in and year out.
Awesome. Amazing. Do you recruit players by following them in high school or through showcases and travel teams?
All the above. We'll if we see them at a camp, we contact their high school coach. And I'm going to say this too. I also contact other teams in their leagues in high school. And the reason I do that is I want to find out the type of player he is on the field. Are you the guy that likes to run his mouth, likes to, you get hit by a pitch, you stare down the pitcher? That's stuff that we have no time for at Rochester. So I try to find out everything. And we vet guys, pretty significantly at Rochester. I do the same thing. I talk to their travel coaches, and I talk to, the other travel coaches that I know that have played against these teams, just to see, hey, do you know this guy? Oh yeah, Joe, I know who he is. He's a great player. How is he to play against? Man, he's hard-nosed, he competes, but he does it the right way. He's walking through the line, shaking hands. He's not chirping. He's not, talking junk to the guys on the team. He just plays the game hard. Those are the guys that I like and I want to be, want to coach.
And talking about showcases, which ones are best to attend, and are there specific ones that you can name?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to look at showcases that pertain to what the level of school you're looking at. So if we've got kids on here that are high academic students that are aspiring to look at schools that are top 50 in the country, you can research and find those high academic showcases like a Head First, Show Ball, the academic ones, and the Play to Wins, which are academic ones. Those are ones we've had long-standing relationships with that we attend all the time. But you want to look at, the Ivy League camps, because the Ivy League camps, bring in coaches from other high-end academic schools to look at players as well. So, ask for details. When we go out to the West Coast, we go to Stanford all the time because they bring in all the top academic schools in the country to work their camp. So I know you don't want to hear that as a Bruin, but the Cardinal have been good to us, and we've gotten quite a few players out of those camps as well.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's how it worked. So let's flip over to the COVID-19 situation. How is this affecting the recruiting, and what are you guys planning to do about it when it comes to recruiting?
So I think just like other parts of the world and things that are going on, this is relatively fluid. So we're just letting our kids in our database that have filled out questionnaires, we're keeping them updated as to what's going on with our situation at Rochester. Where we'll be, throughout the summer, because I know a lot of kids' seasons have been shortened, if not canceled, or they haven't even gotten off the ground yet. So that impacts kids. It impacts us as to, when we can see kids, what environments we can see kids. So, we're doing a lot of virtual recruiting, which is not the same as eyeballs and boots on the ground. But I'm confident with the relationships that we have with camps and things like that that we'll have an opportunity to see the kids that we want to see, and again, continue to bring in some good players. But, I wish I had something more concrete, but I think it's going to be fluid depending on when different parts of the country open up.
Are you guys going to be probably looking more locally, like the local tournaments around here possibly, or?
Again, it could come to that depending on what, administration at Rochester dictates to us, whether they put travel restrictions on us, which could happen. It could be, hey, you can only travel to certain parts of the country. That could happen. So it's pretty fluid. I'm just hoping we can get summer baseball here, because I'm like everybody else on this call. You probably have had enough of staying inside and minding your P's and Q's. So again, it's pretty fluid, but anyone that's put anything in our database, I send emails out probably every 2 weeks as to what's going on, with our schedule.
So I know the answer to this, but I'm still going to ask it. When it comes to scholarships, do players actually get a full ride? Is it year to year, or is it every year? And is it mostly a mixture of academic, financial aid, and baseball? And what would a player most likely receive?
So at the Division III level, no school can give any athletic money whatsoever. Any scholarship money that we give is either need-based and or merit-based, which is based on your grades. Some Division III institutions do not hand out merit money. They just do need-based. And there's other institutions that do need-based, and it's straight merit-based. So again, all that information can be found right on a school's financial aid website. They'll tell you they have to be open and honest with you. Division II and Division I, it's different scenarios. Some can offer both academic as well as scholarship. Some can't. And there's Division I's that can offer no athletic scholarship money. I think, you have some Patriot League schools that are Division I that can't do it. And you have Ivy League schools that are Division I and can't offer any athletic money.
And social media, how does that affect the recruiting process?
Listen, I'm sure you guys have heard it. Parents, I'm going to tell you this: you should monitor your son or daughter's social media stuff, because we have an assistant coach that's his sole responsibility, is to monitor kids. When we get to our final 25, 30 guys, he goes and vets all their social media pages. And once it's there, you can't delete it. There's an imprint somewhere, we'll find it. So in regards to what your son or daughter is putting out, we do monitor that. That does impact us. If it's poor decisions, if I see something, I've been known just to call kids and say, hey man, I just saw your tweet that you just put out. Like, what's going on with that? Oh, coach, it's a joke. Well, I mean, that individual you're thinking about putting on your roster and supposed to be a representative of the university and yourself. So on that end, just be mindful about what you throw out there. For us, we are active in the social media. We put, I think with the COVID-19 situation, we're going to add more content. I know our school and our sports information department is looking to do that as well and build on that. But I think that stuff, again, you guys as players, as parents, absolutely look at that stuff. I think that's important.
And how much does a parent play part in the recruiting process? And how should they go about it?
There is a role. There's no question there's a role for a parent in this. But I would say this: let your son and daughter drive the bus. Be a passenger on the bus, but let them get behind the wheel and drive it. Because I bring every kid that we're interested in into my office. I have a conversation, and I've had parents say, Coach, do you want, is this a situation where it's just you and, my son? And it's like, nope, you guys come on in. And I can see the kids kind of roll their eyes. And I'm like, nope, I want mom and dad in here because they're going to ask questions that, the player is not going to, and I want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence and answering everything before they make a pretty important decision in their life, probably the most important up to this time. Whether that be the academic piece, the financial piece, the roster piece. Kids don't want to ask how much playing time am I going to get. Mom and dad will ask it, and I'm fine with that. But at the same time, I also convey to mom and dad, like, hey, this is college now. This is how we do things. If parents want to talk about playing time, I don't answer those questions. I don't talk to parents about that. That's a conversation the player and I will have, and then that player can dictate to, talk to their parents about it. But I would absolutely 100% have parents involved in the process.
And can they negatively affect a recruit? And how should they act at a showcase?
That's a great question. Just so you parents know that when we do find, like if Jermaine's playing on a field, and I'm watching him play, I'm going to try to find out where mom and dad are. And I'm going to kind of hang right by them. I won't have anything on that says University of Rochester.
Oh, dang.
Because I'm going to find out what they're like. Because we not only recruit players, we recruit families as well.
Wow.
So just be mindful of that, because I've watched parents and dads and moms scream at umpires about a strike call. And I immediately will just not have anything to do with that player, because if they're doing it now, that's a learned behavior. I can understand you get excited about a moment of call, but when it's happening on a consistent basis, like I'm just not going to bring, I'm not going to bring someone like that and a family like that into a culture that, it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort to develop that. So, just be mindful about how you behave, especially showcases where you're going to have a lot of coaches right around you. And the good ones, you'll never know they're even there.
Amazing. I missed this question. How do you recruit or how do you contact the player before 11th grade? Is there or how do you contact people? Is that because some schools they're contacting now in 9th and 10th grade. So how are they contacting them?
So I can only speak for the Division Ones that I know, friends of mine that have gone down this road, and it is the Division Ones cannot contact them. If a parent contacts that coach, then they lay the phone out on the table. The parent then drives the conversation because it's illegal for them to have those conversations beforehand. For Division III, for Rochester, we don't do that. We'll start contacting in 11th grade. Generally, once we finish our current class that we're recruiting to, we'll start in the spring of their 11th grade year, where we start to do that, which is allowed by the NCAA. So we usually do it by email, to be quite honest with you.
So if there's a player on here that's in, let's say, 10th or 11th grade, what would your advice be as far as recruiting? Should they look at more of a D2, D3 school, or should they still continue their pursuit of D1? Or if they're a senior,
Well, I mean, listen, I think there's websites out there that track verbal commitments to Division I schools. So if we've got anyone on here that is looking at, let's say, an LSU or a Florida or Vanderbilt, you can go on and you can see the 25 guys that those schools have committed in your class. I think the great place to start is to talk to as many coaches as possible and ask that tough question. What level do you think I can play at? If you're going to ask that tough question, you better be ready for the tough answer, right? Because, moms and dads, I love you, but sometimes it's difficult to be objective when you're talking to your children. I'm a dad of 3, and I mean, sometimes I'm too objective when it comes to it. But I would say talk to coaches. Talk to baseball people that that have connections to certain coaches at certain levels. The other part of it is go watch a game. You're in an area in Rochester, where you've got very good junior college baseball. You've got a lot of very good Division III baseball. You're a short drive from some Division I schools. Take some time on a weekend and go watch a game and ask yourself, can you play at 10th and 11th grade? Can you play at this level? Because that'll kind of dictate what level you start to look at as well.
I remember a quick story. I remember chatting in California with the coach. I was doing I was doing lessons with this kid, and kid's good. He can hit, but he was like 5'5", 5'6", but he was shortstop. He was a shortstop. And his dad kept saying, "Oh man, he could play shortstop at a D1 school right now." And I said, "What?" I said, "Maybe in a few years, but not right now." And I ended up paying for him to go. And we were watching the game, UCLA and the shortstops there were like 6'1", 6'2". Yeah. And I was like, he can probably play second base after, but not right now, shortstop. And his dad started to realize, like, oh man, I was telling the truth. But he had in his head that he believed that the player was, at a higher level than he was. So I think it's pretty cool you said that, as far as like coming to reality and asking people those hard questions, because parents definitely don't do that.
Well, and one of the questions we get all the time in my office is, Coach, what's your top pitchers? What do they throw? What velocity? Which I then back up to my pitching philosophy. And I'm like, well, are we talking straight velocity, or are we talking pitchability? Like, my top guy, my number 2 pitcher isn't my hardest thrower. I think he tops out at 80, 81. But he's got a fastball that moves 3 feet, and he's got 2 other pitches that are very tough to hit. And so we had a local kid who said, okay, I said, hey, come watch a doubleheader, because you're going to see our number 1 and our number 2. And our number 1 is 90-91, with 3 very good pitches different than our number 2, who's 80, 79, 80, 81. And I said, so you see the difference? And he goes, yeah. And I go, so what do you think? He goes, my son can't pitch here. And I'm like, well, maybe not now, but, maybe with some development, he might. So I think you've got some great baseball that you could just go and see. And the best part is it's free. You don't have to pay. You just go in and watch.
Now, let me open up, because I know they have a few questions for you. I asked basically majority of the questions, but okay. April says, for the sophomores this year that would have had a massive year number-wise, like captains of their JV team, but will roll into next year as a junior and play behind the seniors, is that hurt the 2022 class players for stats?
April, it's a tough situation, and there's a lot other factors that I'm going to touch on, because your question is a fantastic one, and it's one that is I think a lot of college coaches aren't really sure exactly what all this is going to do, and I'm going to say this, that a big factor is the NCAA granting everybody a year of eligibility. So anyone that was on a 2020 collegiate roster gets an additional year of eligibility. The Major League Baseball draft in 2020 will probably only be 5 rounds. And they have also capped signing bonuses to not exceed $100,000. They're doing the same thing in 2021 as well. So to your question, April, that's going to impact the whole landscape of college baseball as a whole. So Jermaine Curtis was a high school senior and was projected to go in the top 10 rounds. Let's even say a first rounder this year. His signing bonus could not exceed $100,000. So Jermaine is probably going to honor his commitment to go to UCLA, because in 3 years he can make millions of dollars. So Jermaine now will be a first rounder going to UCLA, which normally UCLA wouldn't have those kids on campus. Now they're going to get them on campus, and the trickle down you'll see is that Division I baseball is going to get a lot better fast. Division II will get a lot better fast. Division III will get even better faster. So where does that leave kids that, maybe are just a touch above, that might have had a surefire Division I or Division II scholarship? Who knows? I think it's going to impact you. How it does, I'm not sure. The stats, I wouldn't put too much credence in the stats versus the development of your son, meaning the physical development, the tools that he'll develop. Coaches take good players. So if players are good, there's probably going to be a spot for you. The only thing I'll tell you is it's probably going to be harder than it was before COVID-19.
Wow.
A lot of information, but I'm just saying how that will affect, that 2022, 2023 class.
Yeah. These college is about to be stacked. I was thinking
about it's going to be, a good friend of mine's a pitching coach at Vanderbilt, and the players that he's going to have come through the door this year, the pitchers, is going to be unbelievable. So it's going to be interesting these next couple of years.
I'm going to open it up a few more. Let's go with, I know this guy has, James, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you ask your question?
Yeah. So I was wondering what you look for in catchers in the recruiting process.
So again, James, great question. I'm looking for athleticism. All right. It goes back to what I said earlier. I am not a coach that, is going to, we play double headers on the weekends. So I want to make sure that my catchers can play other positions as well, because I'm not going to beat them up. I want them just as good as they were at the beginning of the year as the end of the year. So I'm not going to beat them up a whole lot. So I'm looking at versatility. I'm looking at your footwork. Arm strength, obviously, is a big plus. I want to see how you handle, pitching. And the best part for me is, at showcases. If you were to showcase, chances are those pitchers that you're catching, you've never caught before until that day. But if I can watch you catch those guys and it's smooth, I know I've got somebody really good behind the plate. So I think anyone that goes to showcases, those are things that you're going to look for. Just how you receive those guys. But footwork, arm, those are big things for us.
And those things you could do at home right now. You could work on that stuff right now.
Thank you.
You have any other questions, James?
No, my other question that I had was about how the COVID-19 was going to affect the recruiting process, but he answered that one already.
All right, man. Well, thanks for jumping on.
Thank you.
Let's see who else. See, AM, what's going on?
Not much. He answered.
It's my guy AM from Churchville?
Yes, sir.
All right. How are you, buddy?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
Do you got anything, AM, or no?
No, he answered basically everything I had written down pretty pretty well too. He went pretty in depth, so I don't really have anything for him.
Perfect. All right.
Keep working, AM.
Yes, sir.
Let's go with Brian. What's going on?
How you doing, Coach?
Good. Oh, Mr. Reiki. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good.
That's good. So you basically, like everybody else, you answered most of my questions. But so just one thing I would want to ask is, over you said 19 years was this year of your coaching career?
Yeah.
What have you kind of experimented with and found like the best to like develop your players? Like what has worked the best for you in your program?
I will say the big thing, especially this year. This year was the first time we actually had we combined a strength and conditioning coach with a nutritionist, as well as a sports psychologist. That's a new program that the university's rolled out for our student athletes this year. And you know, I'm an old school guy, and you know, the mental preparation stuff. You know, I was always kind of like, yeah, man, let's just go, let's just get it done, let's just go win, let's play. But we started doing a lot of the mental prep work this year, and I'll be honest with you, I have to, you know, tell you that I think that is one of the areas that I saw the biggest gains in our team as a whole, especially our younger players. I thought they, you know, in tough situations, I was, you know, very surprised at how well they handled themselves this early in the season. And, you know, going back and following up with them, they felt that our mental coach really prepared them for some of these tough situations that they found themselves in, whether it be pinch hit at bats or even coming in on the bullpen in really tough spots. They performed unbelievable, which for me was one of the disheartening things when our season got canceled, because I think those guys were only getting better. And I think a big part of that was our mental prep and our mental coach.
So I'm curious, what things do you do as far as mental? Because this is a great thing, especially Brian. I be working with Brian as far as mental and you know, because you know, he's a great player, high upside, and I want to help him the best that I can. So I try to work with him on the mental side. So like, what things were you guys doing that would help?
So we talked about being able to keep our emotions, you know, even keel, you know, not getting too far up, not getting too far down, allowing for the emotion to kind of take its place when you get a big home run or a big strikeout. Hey, it's getting excited, but bringing it down, trying to get back into what he would call his green zone as quick as possible, so we can focus on the next play or the next pitch or the next at bat or the next inning. Which for young players, and Jermaine, you'll know this, and I can remember when I was playing as a young player, sometimes you just get too hyped up and you struggle to get back to that where you're even keeled, and you make a mistake, whether it be physical or mental, because you just got too amped up. I thought for our first year guys, that was huge. That was really huge, especially if they had a bad at bat. For the first time in 18 years, I would say 95% of them had a ball hit to them, a tough ball, and they made the play, you know, the very next half inning. So it's really something that we're going to dive even deeper into, you know, come next year. But I will say, anyone that can get out there, you can start to read books about the mental side. Don't just shrug it off. It is as part of the game as is hitting off a tee, throwing a bullpen, anything.
I try to tell them that, like, the higher you go up, it's more, yeah, you need your skills, but you need to be working on your mental game just as much, because that's what's separating players from other players is just their mental side of everything. So, but hearing it from you and you telling them, like, you know, there's a great advantage to it, I think they're going to take in consideration and move forward. So,
and listen, I will admit it. I was a coach that kind of poo-pooed it I'll be honest with you. And just in 5 games, you know, and we had about 2 weeks of practice. Just what a difference I saw in our guys. It was unbelievable. So I'm really excited, you know, moving forward to having a full year now where we can implement a year-long plan instead of just a season-long plan.
I bet. I want to just touch up just a little bit more on that. And you could speak to this, but as a head coach, I would think if you can trust a player to have a bad at bat and then go out in the field and produce, that makes you much better. Like you feeling more better about your team that you guys are going to win instead of, you know, because your job is you're putting out players that you trust. And if you know they have a bad at bat, now you're thinking, oh man, maybe he might go out to the infield and mess up, or you know what I'm saying? So
you're spot on, Jermaine, because this is exactly what happened. We had a younger player that, you know, early on in one of our first games, you know, had a really bad at bat, took a fastball for strike 3, you know, goes out to center field, makes an unbelievable catch to end the inning, comes back in, we start to hit, and we're getting to his spot. We put some runs up, we get to his spot, and he hits a double, what should have been a double off the wall, comes around to third base, and I just looked at him and said, I cannot tell you how proud I am that last inning you took that bad strike 3, you came out, you made that incredible catch. Now with 2 outs, you just knocked in 2 guys, and you're standing here at third base. I cannot tell you how proud I am. That kid, with me telling him that, he was on cloud 9, had an unbelievable rest of the trip out to California. But even from my standpoint, I was like, wow, now I have that trust in those guys to be able to do that. And I think it showed not only him, but it showed everybody else in the team, like, hey man, coach has got your back.
Amazing.
So it was great. That's why I'm saying I've turned a complete 180 on the mental stuff.
Brian, you're still on. Sorry we kept going, but
You're good.
You have any more questions?
No, that answered it. Thank you.
All right. Let's a few more, let you go. I don't see anybody else. Let's say Evan. Evan, what's going on?
Nothing. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Do you have a question?
No, I don't got any questions.
Okay. All right. Thanks for joining. How about Hey Dave, what's going on? So Dave's on, but he's not. Okay. All right. There we go. We don't have Dave on then. All right. John, how we doing?
Good.
Good. You don't have any question or Donovan?
No, he pretty much answered everything that we're looking for.
All right. Perfect. Thank you for joining in.
Thank you.
And I think we have one more. That's pretty much it. All right. Well, I want to thank you for joining us and giving us the best info so far that we've had. I talked to Coach Decker. He said
my guy.
He said a lot of good things about you, and and I'm sure you can say the same thing about him. But I appreciate you jumping on. Thank you for giving us your time. And is there anything else you need to say? If not, I'll let you.
I mean, Jermaine, I think, this is great what you're doing. And you guys out there, you've got a treasure chest of information with Jermaine. Having to get to know him over the last year. Just an amazing guy, very good instructor. I know he had a year of eligibility left. I was trying to get him to come to U of R and play a little bit. But I know with everything that's going on out there and everything you guys are dealing with, it's just, listen, man, just keep working at it. Take this time to try to better yourselves physically, mentally. And I know there'll be baseball this summer, so just be ready to rock and roll.
All right. Well, thank you.
All right, Jermaine. Take care.
All right. You too.
Take care, guys.